Now I'll set the scene for scene 11, alternate scene 9. Lights rise in a dark and dirty place. Garbage is blowing out, and there are thin, decrepit people who moan and fart, jabber on with nonsense, and occasionally cry and scream. Entering stage right are Danny Wagner and Jenny Ackles. She seems hesitant as she steps over people and looks about in the dim light. Danny seems, if not home with the scene, certainly more used to it. Jenny, though, seems determined. Danny seems merely to be her guide. It's an interesting scene. It reminds me of the alley scenes in High and Low, where they're stepping around all of these zombie-like creatures. And it's near Wyckoff Avenue, isn't it?
Wyckoff, yeah, and Wyckoff Heights Hospital is mentioned, where there was a methadone clinic, which later leads into the cult leader guy who's trying to help addicts named Avron, which comes from another song. But here, this again goes back to True Life. I think I had a few scenes talking about the heroin galleries there, and so I thought, well, let me go back again. And so, since Jenny is the optimist, Jenny is the good girl as opposed to the bad girls of Candy and Betty. Jenny would want to, as a flower child, come in and help these people and preach to them and say, perk up, be good, don't take drugs, don't waste your life, blah, 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 blah. And, of course, that's going to be futile. And this brings in the character of Derek. And while I said my favorite use of song in the play was the Foreigner song, I think you would probably agree the best use of a song, at least a rock song, is the use of the 13th floor elevator song, Slip Inside This House Here. It's a perfect, for the scene and for the song, even though the song isn't about necessarily a heroin gallery, it's clearly written. The lyrics have that drug-like feel to it. Slip inside this house. I didn't, as a kid, I knew of the 13th floor elevators, but it wasn't until about 8 or 9 years ago, one of the first documentaries that I either saw on Netflix or maybe it was here on Austin Public Television, was about Rocky Erickson, the lead singer of the 13th floor elevators. And I used one of his solo songs later in this play. But this is such an interesting song, and it seems to be a song that goes so perfect of explaining this warped, drugged-out view of Derek. And so having him singing the song to both Jenny and Danny, and then, so you can imagine these heroin addicted people acting as a chorus, just sort of dancing like these Halloween characters in the background. Jenny gets scared, even Danny gets a little bit scared, but I think it's a very effective scene. Did you think this was the best use of a song?
Sorry?
Did you think this was the best use of the rock song?
Yes. There was also another scene where Danny is sort of walking around in this surreal environment that comes later. I thought was very effective as well.
Yeah.
I think he has his cat in tow. You'll know what I'm talking about when we get to it. But the use of it too is he sings to Jenny and to Danny. It's almost as if he's trying to indoctrinate both of them into this horde of heroin zombies. It's very interestingly used. And then in the next version, I think that we get the Daisy Bell. We get the Hell 9000 song.
Yeah.
Where he's sort of, but completely different than the film uses it.
Yeah, and that's a song that goes back to the 19th century.
I also think this Daisy Bell song is a bit of foreshadowing as well. And it's interesting. It sort of, there's a moment with Derek that comes out very unexpectedly, and then you think back to this song and how it may have foreshadowed him.
Yeah, and I did, and I chose that song because of the 1968, 2001. There's a few songs that are linked to 1968 in some way, but also too, it does have the sense of an awakening kind of consciousness of artificial intelligence, or the intelligence of Derek here. And then at the end, they start sort of debating it, Derek and Jenny and grown Danny and.
Grown Danny always seems to be calling for the lights.
Yeah, he seems to be annoyed about things.
He's not happy with this production at any point.
No.
Then we get scene 12, alternate scene 10.
And this is the
another
second
Christine.
this is the second Danny Pastor-Stagey scene.
Yeah. And do you want to talk about? I think you told me that the real life version of this character, he was somewhat famous. Did you want to speak about that, or would you prefer to?
Well, I'm not going to use the real name, but this references that one of the Sunday school teachers got impregnated by this English singer who was quite famous in the 60s and 70s. You could just look up such a thing and get the real name, but that got me the idea of that there was this rotating, every few weeks there was a new Sunday school teacher, and here Danny gets off in a bad way right away with Miss Evangeline. That's Miss Evangeline, Danny. And Danny says, that's Danny Evangeline. Miss Evangeline, that's Miss Evangeline, Danny. Christine, Miss Evangeline. Miss Evangeline, what? Christine, can we sing some hymns? And so Christine is still on the hymn. Danny has a new enemy that he's going to vanquish, but Christine's still. And in the background, we get these other kids who apparently know not to get the Wagner kids started, because Christine's going to just keep singing and Danny's going to keep arguing. And so, you have sort of a class that's cowed by fear. You've got these teachers that somehow lose their shit. And then Pastor Stagey, even in just this second scene here, Pastor Stagey seems resigned to things, because it comes in, Danny makes a fart sound with his mouth. Miss Evangeline. Now that wasn't natural. That was a fake fart. Fake fart. Fake fart. Sort of like fake news. And then Pastor Stagey comes in and says, fake farts. That's what the class is debating. She goes, I promise it won't happen again. Pastor, oh, it will. It will. Maybe not fake farts. Next time it'll be about whether caterpillars are uglier than Herman Munster, or whether or not Jesus didn't know how to shave, and that's why he has a beard. There was a time when we debated whether or not Abraham would have sacrificed Isaac. We debated how many pairs of animals Noah let onto the ark. We debated whether or not Jesus could be God and his son, not to mention the Holy Ghost. But now we debate the reality of farts. And so Pastor Stagey is a man whose whole worldview has come down to bodily functions, and he seems resigned to it.
He also, throughout the entire play, just wants to retire, and for whatever reason can't get out of it.
Yeah, and Pastor Stagey, I think it's Evangeline. Yeah, Evangeline, who keeps asking about the prior teachers, and Pastor Stagey keeps demurring, trying not to say. And then he finally tells about, one of them went insane, the other one, went out in traffic, the one got pregnant, the other one, he goes, oh yes, then there was Miss Daniela before her. I forget what the hell happened then and there. Just about 20 minutes into her first class, she ran screaming down the hall and out into Myrtle Avenue, right into traffic. Thankfully, no one was hurt. Something about needing to come clean to Belio. Her tongue was like a lizard's, flicking up and out as if trying to lick the stoplight. She stopped traffic for 20 minutes until the cops came and arrested her. So sad. So we get with just a few of these brushstrokes, we get the backstory of how Danny seemingly purposely is out to destroy Pastor Stagey's, his army. And we find out later why, whereas Christine seems to just be psychotic and wanting to sing,
I was also thinking as I was reading this play that Pastor Stagey is a great character. Yeah. And that's something that's absent in all, but I think there's some films that use the musical format and they get to a great character, like in the James Cagney film Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yeah.
But you don't have any musicals that really establish character. Even something like Hair, it might have a couple of great songs, but the characters are roughly useless as actual people.
And I did this for a reason, because he is a character based on reality. Jenny Eccles, the name isn't real, but the character was based on someone I knew. But I do remember Pastor Stagey, and I think he was a good, decent man. He wasn't some priest who was molesting children, as far as I know. If you look him up online, the few mentions of him are positive. And I wanted to immortalize him. So I had to make him a bit more cynical, a bit more insecure than he was in real life. I mean, these are exaggerations in this scene, but he had to be a really memorable and great character, because there is an impulse in me and in many artists to define their world, to put the imprimatur on it, and I want people to know that such a man existed.
We also get what you referred to earlier as sort of the exorcist moment with Christine, where he does seem to oddly fear her
Yeah.
in a strange thing. And we get an allusion to the Sandberg poem. I sometimes think that she has these eyes, they cross, they do things. I sometimes think they are lizard eyes. I mean, the boy, well, he's another story too. I think he may not be of this earth. He says things, makes connections between things that no one his age and I've ever met has. It's scary, that's all. Just scary. Her eyes and his mouth.
Yeah, and so this again is playing off the then current thing. You know, you had Rosemary's Baby and The Exorcist and The Omen. Throughout the late 60s, 70s, you had this idea of the devil coming back. So again, Christine is being cast as the devil child, and Danny as sort of the apostate, you know, bringer of the apocalypse, you know, in his little sister. And they end up singing, you know, which one is it? They sing what's at the end there's a canon, a chorus where they're singing "What a Friend We Have in Jesus." And I think in the '72 Christmas video, we also hear Christine, the real Christine Schneider, singing that one, "What a Friend We Have in Jesus." So let me end.
She's the lead, and the girls and the boys sing around her.